Let me tell you a story of when I was a kid. I had this Shakespeare poster up on my wall that's still up on my wall, and Shakespeare is a fishing company. I used to be really into fishing as a kid, and so I had just put up the poster there because it had came with my new fishing rod that I got at the time. And when I did that, my dad was talking to me at the time about how my room was going to be painted. Of course, it never got painted, but we were going to talk about it, and he was making the plans, he was making the arrangements for that to happen. And one of the things that he said that struck a chord with me, that continues to strike a chord with me to this day, is you will not care about this when you're older. And it was just a casual thing he said, right? Like, he didn't mean anything by it when he said it, but the fact that he said that at all, the fact that he had assumed that I was just not going to be into fishing anymore, had hurt me because I felt as if I were being misunderstood, as if assumptions were being made about me when they didn't need to be made. And I didn't like fishing later, but the fact that he had asserted that felt wrong to me because he was assuming that he knew more about who I am than I do, and I feel like that is just a fundamental act of disrespect when you assume that you know more about a person when the person who knows the most about themselves is themselves, because they live within their own body. They can make mistakes, they can be incorrect, but the fundamental issue is that they are themselves, and so they will ultimately know the most about themselves. And so when I was thinking about this at the time, I just felt grossly misunderstood. I just felt as if, these assertions should not be made against me when I know myself better than anybody else and I am me. And so what I wanted to do at the time desperately was just to explain myself. Like, there was nothing more that I wanted at the time other than just to explain myself. And I didn't know how to do that at the time because I was a fucking 8-year-old. And so I was just left with these gaping emotions that were just there, and I didn't know how to deal with them. And I've felt that way about a lot of things for a long time. But with that one in particular, it just struck a chord with me because a lot of what I do on YouTube and a lot of what I do in general just in life, my outlook, is informed by interactions like this because people have always, you know, asserted their will upon me in ways that showed misunderstanding. Like, they had shown, I know more than you do, I understand more about you, when that is not the case. Even when I make mistakes about who I am, like, I thought I was gonna always be into fishing, but then it turned out I wasn't into it anymore now, um, that is still a mistake that I am supposed to make. That is a mistake that I am allowed to make as someone who knows the most about myself. But other people, they sure as hell don't know more about me than I do. No one does. No one ever does. And I mean, I was a kid at the time. So kids are fucking stupid. And they don't know themselves. Their parents usually know them better. But even then, even then, the fact that it's being asserted at all just always got on my nerves. And it still does a lot of the time to this day, people pretending that they know what I know, even though a lot of the time they barely know any of my backstory, they barely know anything about who I am, and yet they make these wild accusations anyway. It just shows a lack of understanding and a lack of context on the other person's part. They just don't care, and they don't try to care, but they make these big assumptions anyway, and it's incredibly disrespectful because those people who the assumptions are being made upon are themselves. They deserve to be themselves. They deserve to show that they understand themselves, because who else can fucking understand yourself better than you? You are literally inhabiting your own body and your brain. You know all of your experiences, so of course you know yourself better than anybody else. That's my fucking point.